Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. The number of women out-earning men impacts sexual dynamics. This is very key to understand. This is very key. And, this is, people often talk about how the game has changed from back in the day. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't see where it's really changing. They think, oh, well, yeah, we got to be on social media or something like that. That ain't that big a deal. Most men outnumber women on social media. The change ain't really there. And but there are changes. And the biggest change is just pure sexual dynamics. Now, in a way, women have sex the same way they did. Trust me, I was there. There hasn't been a change in sex in general. But one thing that's starting to impact sexual dynamics and who they get with is women are starting, the number of women who are out earning men, even their husbands, is high. Like there was reports that say 41% of couples, the woman out earns the man. 41%, and they figure that's going to go to 50% by 2030. And indeed, that's just in the married couples. Imagine the situations where it's two people meet, they might go on a date and the woman's earning way more than the man. And I mean, that's a reality. Even for some six-figure men, there's some women out there who are making still more than they are. So that's changing the sexual dynamics in many ways, because one of the things that it used to be, since women couldn't work to the same extent as men, they had, when they were looking at a man, they had to look at not only how much he was making, but really that he was making something, and then his willingness to take care of her. His willingness. So that the protection thing usually had to do with providing too. They were both kind of intertwined. It wasn't just physical protection. And she was more under that man's dominion because of the money thing. And indeed, that's how the culture developed. Indeed, one thing, pimps back in the day, they used to call most marriages trick marriages because the woman was only married to him for survival. Indeed, I've met many women who they were married to a man for a long time, and then as soon as the woman got on her feet and was somewhat was able to get financially independent, they rolled from the guy. Like I remember one woman, she had kids with a guy. She had some grandkids. And I said to her, well, you just divorcing the guy. Why are you leaving him? She said, she just married him for survival. And she was, I'll just say she was from one of the poorer states. She was from one of the poorer states. So she married the guy for survival. But then here's the problem. Here's the issue, the biggest issue. If you get women earning more money, then they looking at men different. Men can't come with that wallet. In fact, the only women who really are impacted, are influenced by the amount of money a man is making, really is poorer women. But then that's another issue. We talking like the ratchets. We talking about the trailer park women. Yeah, they impacted by that a little bit more, but is that what you want as a man? Unless you live in that environment, is that what you want? So it's a different thing. But if we talking like mostly like working class to middle class to upper middle class, the women getting their own thing. So when they looking at a man, his money ain't as much. And usually, indeed, the women at that level who still look at that, that's more for outside purposes. That's more in terms of how it looks to the outside. Because even in those situations, a lot of times a woman will get with a certain type of man making a certain amount of money, and it's more to, impress other people and, be bougie or something like that. But those women often cheat. Those women often cheat because it's impacting sexual dynamics, because really what's happened is the female gaze has been freed. Now, I know there's always a lot of talk about, man's looks, his physical appearance and stuff. And remember, I always say it. I've never said looks didn't matter. But women, it does matter because they take everything into consideration. But because they earning the money now, they can look at a man differently. All of a sudden, the money piece don't mean as much to many women, except for appearances. Keep that in mind, except for appearances. Or they want to be in a position where the man spends all of his money and she saves hers, and then when she's ready to roll out, she got all her money. Seriously, that's how that is. But in terms of overall sexual dynamics, women more free to go for a man because he turns her on sexually. See, it used to be she couldn't really do that. Well, at least not publicly. Let me correct that. A lot of stuff was still happening back in the day. It was just more undercover. It was a real dynamic when people talked about, was it the milkman's baby, or that door-to-door salesman, or just straight up the guy coming over the back fence. Listen to some of those old blues songs. Stuff is just more public now, In fact, I'm going to talk about that in the next podcast. But it's impacting it because now women looking at men totally different. Or they just more free to look at them the way they really want to. They more free to go for a man based on his physicality, his charisma, his masculinity, Because it's like, okay, they take the money part out, then it's more about the man's character, personality and stuff. And then it has to still be, if they talk about marriage, it still got to be a man who will be good with his woman out earning him. So it's like it's changing everything. But the biggest thing is, does the man get her wet? See, women are more free to go for their sexual desires. Like, I'm going to get into that more in the next one. But it's impacting it. Just these women out here earning money. It's changing a lot. A lot of guys who might have gotten the attention, might have gotten that good wife, or at least on the surface good wife, maybe as late as the 90s. It ain't the same now. Ain't the same. A man to get women now really need to develop his sexual self, his sex appeal. That's why I really promote it. All right. So indeed, y'all know I'm on my Vimeo. I always promote those type of videos because it's totally changed. The money angle and all of that, being a good provider and all of that. Nah, women want a guy gonna rock their world. I'm gonna talk about that in the next one. Anyway, I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.